And I think with child participation, they should come on having documents, having laws, having meetings and discussions in a child-centered way. There's no point of having child participation when you're discussing at a level of land.
Whenever certain decisions are being made, let a child be included.
Welcome back to the second part. We are still talking about the barriers that impact education in Africa. I'm still joined by my wonderful leaders, Kieribetswe and Isabella. We're looking into now the cultural impact into our education system. In South Africa, we still faced with Uktwala. We're also still faced by parts of child marriages. My leaders, how can we deal with this once and for all? And we know this, the girl child is now in school, not also becoming a mother or not also becoming a wife at a very, very young age. What needs to be done?
Yes, ma'am. Definitely, as I was trying to match into that, when a girl is put into an early child marriage, she's limited in a lot of ways. She's limited school-wise. She can't make her own preference in going to school. That's the first thing. Immediately when she joins into the marriage, she is forced into that marriage. Even communication from to her parents or family members is limited in a certain way. She's expected to speak in a certain way. When she is at school, she's expected to dress in a certain way. She's limited to certain things. So it therefore means childhood enjoyment and even leadership, she can't express herself. She can't have the other benefits that the other girls are receiving as well. So early marriage, it's limiting a lot of children. And I think Honorable Isabella agreeing with me that we're in the process of working to deplete every aspect, especially in the cultural system, whereby this thing is being prolonged. There are some of the tuition leaders that are doing it just under our noses and they don't disclose it to the public. True. And then they think that we don't know about it, whereas we know. I was telling my president there's a list ongoing that we are going to put out into the group, and then we are going to attend those people.
Yeah, this is progress right there and leadership. Thank you so much for this, Kieribetswe. Back to you. How can young leaders like yourselves ensure that both boys and girls have equal opportunities to learn? We do know that the girl child is always have struggles. There's a lot that goes on. Sometimes it feels like it's easier for boys, but then how do we make sure now we balance both? Because sometimes we give more attention more to the girls and then forget about the boy child. The balance, how do we reach that?
I think the main thing that we really need to do is have that open conversation. Because, I mean, if we look at a boy and a girl, there's different ways that we need to be supported. And I think it's sitting down, having that conversation and saying, this is what we're going to do to support you. This is what we're going to do to support you. And then another conversation saying, this is what we're going to do to support each other. And I mean, speaking from an activist point of view, activism is key. Speaking out when you see something that you do not agree with. Something that both of us have always done is we're not afraid to use our voice, especially if we want to achieve a certain outcome. You know, no matter what other people are going to say, no matter the societal expectation of what you're supposed to do and what you're supposed to say. When it comes to something that's unfair and unjust, you need to speak out about it. And I feel like empowering more students, more children to do that, it would be revolutionary.
Revolutionary indeed. Thank you so much for that, Honorable Isabella. And back to both of you, my leaders. The African Children's Summit. It's felt when I looked into the invitation, not only that, but they also sent me the actual, I'll call it a booklet for the lack of a better way, or documents. It's very detailed. It's very interesting. It felt to me like we are moving towards a positive change and we are making strides. But I mean, adults, from your point of view, next month, the African Children's Summit will bring together leaders, your leaders, young leaders from across the continent to discuss different aspects. And if one can ask you directly to the policymakers, What is one issue that you would like and say that you'll ask to improve for education in Africa?
Regarding that, it's a very good question, Ms. Portia, regarding it. Let's start it in this aspect, which will lead me to answer your question. It is wise as continental leaders to interact about how our nations have different education operating systems. I have to know, let's say that when they provide me their education operating system, and then I provide my education operating system, then we can conclude, both of us, on how we can give an advice to the education system continental, because of if it starts in the continent, then it goes to the individual countries themselves. So we can't just put out advices without giving each other a background information of each other's education operating system. Yeah. So, but however, in much more simpler terms, I would say that child participation, firstly, is very important in the education operating system. That whenever certain decisions are being made, let a child be included. In the summit, we have another sector of ours whereby there's an African president that is elected, and our national speaker is the deputy speaker in that in the parliament. So you see that we have to understand all of our backgrounds, and we still conclude by saying that include children in the decision making so that the education system can be flexible for all of the children in Africa. It's not complex. It's very simple. It just needs the implementation. It's something that can be processed through a month. Then the children will be in that system. Now we can be having sayings about it.
Excellent. Thank you for this. And from your side, my darling, what would be one thing that you can ask for? Should you have a face-to-face, one-on-one with one of the policymakers and say, hey, look at this in education. This is what we want in Africa.
So for me, it's what I touched on earlier when I said with examinations only being offered. Well, this is just in the South African context.
Yeah.
How examinations are only offered in English and Afrikaans at a matric level. I want it to be in every language. I don't see why there should be that disparity. It's such an important part of your education. I mean, see universities, tertiary education, work offices, companies asking for your matric certificate. You shouldn't be put at a disadvantage just because you speak a different language. Also, just what I want to touch on with what Peter said with child participation. You know, one of the 3 P's of child rights is child participation. And I think with child participation, they should come on having documents, having laws, having meetings and discussions in a child-centered way. There's no point of having child participation when you're discussing at a level of language. I do a lot of work with the Western Cape Children's Commissioner, and one of our main goals as an office is getting government to produce child-centered documents. We worked recently with National Treasury, and they produced a child-centered version of the national budget. And I mean, I feel like doing that across the board and not just having it for certain departments, that including child participation will be extremely beneficial, not just in our country, but within Africa.
Definitely, I can imagine.
As evidence, that is also included in our declaration with the 11th seat of Nelson Mandela Children's Parliament. Right. We did include that in our declaration that adults, high professional or high seating adults, should come to the level of children, to the children's language, whereby they understand, they talk basic English with us, so that when a particular decision is made, we can all agree that it was understood even by the children.
Telling them to use their voice, for example, against a bully at school. You know, you don't need to be on a big platform in parliament.
kids should participate in the policy making and also just conversations around it, because we are talking about not just us anymore. The message that would give to a young person listening to today who might be facing challenges in their education, what could be that message that you can just guide them and give them hope?
I'm going to be very simple. I'm not going to be very complex about this, because responsibility comes a long way. First time I got into this seat, the first time I became deputy president, I have been preaching, value your responsibilities as much as you value your rights. Let me come to a level of a 9-year-old, for instance, that you have a right to education. What is your responsibility? Your responsibility is to go to school, attend classes, do your homeworks, do your class activities committed. I'm at a level of a 9-year-old.
True.
This will progress through as they go with different grades. That the more you grade, the more amount of work it comes. Still, you have to be committed. So I would advise to a lot of young leaders that let us be committed in what we say. We can speak, we can preach. There's a word even that my colleague Isabella loves to say, that let us not practice tokenism, good people. Let's not be tokenic about this. Let us implement what we say. We should not be these political leaders that just say and then they don't do anything. But let us work, let us show commitment in what we're doing. So value responsibilities as much as you value your rights, and be truthful to what you say, and commit to the people, to the target audience that you are preaching to. That's my message. Simple.
Yeah. And to you, my honorable Isabella.
So my message also extremely simple, and that is that where you come from does not make up who you are as a person. Not everyone's story is all sunshines and rainbows. Sometimes you need to stay true to who you are in order to achieve your goals and to achieve and be the change that you want to see. If you do not like what's going on, use your voice. There is nothing stopping you from voicing your opinion. Not everyone is going to like it. Not everyone's going to agree with it. But the fact that you are using your voice and speaking up for others who may be too shy to use their voice, that is more powerful than anything else.
Thank you so much.
There's more of us to represent. Yeah, there's more of us.
Yeah, we need more student leaders. We need more leaders.
Yeah.
So
I'm liking this so a lot. And maybe for a person who says, I want to be a leader, because not everybody is probably well versed to both of you. How do they go about and say, I want to be part of this movement, or I also want to be part of the leaders that will also assist in any aspects that have to do with children?
If you want to be a leader, to any other child listening to this, if you want to be a leader, first thing you need to do is to wake up, look at yourself in the mirror and speak. Talk about the problems. Talk to yourself first. Talk about the problems that you are facing at home, and then talk about the solutions that you want to implement it. Talk to your parents. It goes with levels. Talk to your parents. Let them hear you. Let them hear your voice. Now, be inclusive now. Include a third person. If your parents don't understand, include a third person. A pastor, social worker, a teacher. You are developing leadership skills. Right. Now you will develop the courage to go into the crowd and speak as a leader. As much as we face those as, the first one people hate is camera. But now when you look at a camera, now you'll develop that confidence of saying, when I see a camera, I speak. So look at yourself in the mirror firstly and calm down. Always calm down and seek advice. The best advice I've received in my life is that you are not a fool when you go to any other person to seek advice. So please seek advice.
And I mean, there's this big thing that you need to be part of some big organization or program or group in order to make a difference. You can speak to your friends about current events, about what's happening in government, what's happening around you. You can help someone with their homework. Be the small change, let's rather say this, the size of the change doesn't determine how much of an impact it makes. You can be a leader in your community, your school, in your family, whether it's taking on responsibility and helping your siblings with their homework, or telling them about what's going on in them, informing them about things, telling them to use their voice, for example, against a bully at school. You know, you don't need to be on a big platform in parliament or on a podcast, for example, bring about change. And also, like, find people who you align with, who have the same views. You guys can always work together to start a little project of some kind. It doesn't need to be big.
I have learned something today. I have learned tokenism. I am going to be using that in a very, very brilliant way. You cannot imagine.
Yeah, it's a very important to act on what you say. It's very simple. Act on what you say, and the person who always reminds me about this, even like when we feel like we are sinking now, Isabella just comes and say, "Hey, you are going to act based on this thing." And even the president does say that we are going to act on it up until we see it. But however, we will be in Gauteng. I think that's where it will be hosted. We'll be in Gauteng. We will interact with these with our leaders. So yeah, more will be shared on the platform.
Thank you so much, guys. And Baya, thank you to both of you.
Yes, thank you so much for having us and giving us the platform to speak about these issues.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you so much to Isabella and Kiara Bezwe for sharing your insights and your passion for education. I hope that the decision makers of our country and the continent are listening. And to all our listeners, let's keep pushing for a future where every child gets the education they deserve. Don't forget to subscribe into the In Conversation with Portia, the African Echo. Until next time, stay inspired and keep speaking out. Bye for now.